It can be argued that even with the ACA, speaking of constructive criticism, we are still at the mercy of the privatized insurance industry to set costs for consumers. If that's true, are the ACA, the AMA, and any other plan that just expensive, partisan, and ineffectual band-aids until we overhaul our insurance industry, offer a public option, or implement a universal healthcare system?
So I'll go ahead and tackle this.
Sure, this is like world peace. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Betsy's gonna fix it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it. Okay. So this is way out of my pay grade. But anyway, so I would say that in my opinion, yes, it is a band-aid, but we have made steps in the right direction. I think one of the biggest things that we need to work at as a society is realizing, or deciding rather, whether we are going to look at healthcare as a privilege or a right. And one of the things, as I was thinking about today and preparing today, one of the earliest documents of the United States is the Declaration of Independence, which we love, everybody, both sides, no matter who you are, loves to reference. But one of the things that is in there is for the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The first thing is life. So I would say from a fundamental standpoint, life is like why we're here, why we have freedoms to begin with. We need to start that shift into the, yes, healthcare is a right for all people, and that if we do start looking at it that way, maybe we can start melting the ice that is the hatred for a universal healthcare system and truly make it everybody in it or nothing system versus just going back to the old system. So, but that is both personal and professional opinion. Just a disclaimer.
Does anybody else have thoughts on it?
I mean, so I'm focused obviously on reproductive health care, but I have been learning a lot through this ACA fight, and I have been looking a lot into single payer and Single Payer Action Network in Ohio. There's a lot of great work around this, so I'd encourage everyone to look into the work they do. And to me, not only the idea of a single payer system not only hits this idea of like that a lot of people argue like it's fiscally conservative in the long run because if you're focusing on preventative health care, so the cost will eventually come down. But obviously I'm coming at it from an ideological standpoint where we should all be supporting one another, lifting one another up, and if you help pay for my birth control, I'll help pay for your Viagra kind of thing. Like we should all be wanting each other's services to be covered, and to me that makes the most sense with kind of a universal healthcare system. And I don't think I think the ACA was a step toward that. I think repealing the ACA is a step backward, and I think part of the issue is trying to get past kind of the ineffectual congressional system that we have in place right now. So we've got some work to do to get there.
So my view, first of all, I don't think there's this big massive conspiracy between the AMA and the plans and the hospital association, et cetera. Everybody's trying to sort of fight it out and sort of make it work, whatever system we have, the best they can for themselves. And I do think the Affordable Care Act was a meaningful step forward to provide care to people who didn't provide coverage to people who didn't have it. And they made meaningful progress in that regard. But they didn't, I mean, it wasn't seen, I don't think anybody saw it as the sort of the final step that would make everything work better. We do have a single payer system, and it's called Medicare, and people like it. People over 65 really like it. They like the system, et cetera. So on one hand, it's very popular, it provides universal coverage, and I was saying earlier that the United States does not fare well compared to other industrialized countries relative to the health of our people, particularly given that we spend over twice as much as the next industrialized country in the world. So we don't get very good results, except for people who are over 70. And if you're over 70, this is the place to be. Okay? And part of that is because we have universal health coverage, I think. Now, the downside of where Medicare fails is it's really expensive. And it has not been able to manage costs. And part of that, I think, gets to the politics of it. So anytime you try to do anything that would limit people's choices, that might put more of a financial sharing on customers. The Medicare or the senior lobby is very, very effective and really prohibits that from being practical. So on the one hand, it works. It does provide universal coverage. It does keep people healthier and live longer and more productive lives. And on the other hand, they have figured out a way to manage the cost of it. So you can't say it's a resounding success, and why don't we just move it to everybody else?
I guess I would offer a couple of thoughts. I'm not as certain about sort of all of the conspiracy aspects of it, and also not as certain about the insurance companies not playing some games. Recently, sort of Aetna and Humana wanted to merge, and sort of the feds were like, no, you can't go about doing that. And at least some judges thought that the reason that Aetna pulled out of some of the markets, like in Pennsylvania, was actually to kind of get back at the feds for doing that. So I think that when you have a system that has corporations whose ultimately goal is to maximize profits, you do run into problems in terms of how do you, if your goal is to give the best healthcare and the most cost-effective healthcare versus to make the most money, those are different aims. And it's how do you leash them to generate that aim, but it's not going to be perfect until you have a system that's all dedicated towards delivering healthcare. And again, I think that idea of Medicare, or the VA system, these are both, despite sort of all the maligning we do of the VA system, it's a great healthcare system for being able to deliver kind of single-payer care. But the flip side of that, when you talk about kind of healthcare in America, a lot of those numbers end up being kind of aggregate numbers. And we do a terrible job of delivering healthcare to some people, and we do a great job of delivering healthcare to other people. Like this population over 70. Also very affluent white people we do a really great job of delivering healthcare to. And so I think that when we go forward, we realize that we're going to be kind of changing one arbiter, which is now kind of sort of the vagaries of economic systems and the vagaries of insurance companies, for another one, which is going to be a government bureaucrat. And if that government bureaucrat is really making sensible decisions for folks based on data, then that's great. But if sort of Paul Ryan is making the decisions about what kind of healthcare I can get, whether it's sort of women's reproductive rights as opposed to Viagra treatments, I think that's something that people are more uncomfortable with. So pluses and minuses, but your question as written is yes, it's a band-aid system, and we're not to where we ought to be.